What's up, guys? It's Monday, July 15th. I'm wearing all green and I'm also a little bit late, probably because I'm still basking in the afterglow of hitting my parlay. Hope you guys were able to hit it too. Let's go into that first. First thing that we had there was the Jaleel Major Hackett and the Peter Dobson fight, where I said that was going to go to the final bell. It did, and actually, if you got to watch the fight, you saw that Hackett controlled the earlier rounds, but hadn't been to deeper rounds, and basically the last few rounds were more Dobson's way. So it was a really live dog in Dobson. He just didn't pull it off. So the safe play of going to the final bell was the right thing to do in that case. And then, of course, in the Jaron Ennis versus David Avanesian fight, I had rounds 4 through 6 for a stoppage, and it looks like Ennis ended it with a broken jaw that ended the fight on the stool after the conclusion of the 5th round. So it's a 5th round TKO. That all together netted us a plus 542 if you're able to put that in when I had it out there for you guys. So when you see the thumbnail that you're going to see for this video that has a fist holding cash and is mostly green, that's a sign that we hit. All right. So moving past those, I didn't watch any more of the DAZN card. I spent my time watching the ESPN card, and I'm going to recap that card for you here. That was the one that became headlined by Raymond Muratalla and Tevin Farmer because Janibek Alimhanullah was not able to make his fight due to dehydration and hospitalization. So I will go into that fight first and then go into the undercard bouts and tell you a little bit about guys who I think you should be watching for as prospects and also guys you should be looking for as B-sides. Going into that fight with Raymond Muratalla and Tevin Farmer, we saw a few guys here. I got to tell you, just off the jump, I'm not very into what I see from Raymond Muratalla. And if you saw afterwards, Tevin Farmer was saying that he was robbed. I wouldn't call it a robbery. I think he lost. I think he lost a very, very close decision. But in the beginning half of that fight, it really looked like it should have been a blowout in Farmer's direction because he was able to use spacing to make Muratalla miss and then pot shot him with his own shots as he was circling on the outside of the ring. One of the key things that his corner was telling him was that he was doing a little too much of having his back against the ropes. Things took a turn, though, in the later rounds where Muratalla started pouring on a little bit more of the offense, and Farmer got a point taken away for excessive holding in the 8th round. That really kind of turned everything because after that, Muratalla was more emboldened to keep coming forward. It looked like Farmer was losing gas, and even though I had it 95-95 going into the 10th round, what I did see was that Farmer started out the 10th round pretty strong, but was starting to fade a little bit and got clipped with a massive right hook that hit him right on the jaw, had his legs wobbling, and once that hits, even if he did nothing else after that round, basically he lost the round, and if I had it 95-95 going into the final round, he lost the fight based off of that one punch. And he didn't just get hit by that one punch, he got hit by more of them. So Farmer might be upset about the decision, but I think if he goes back and looks at it again, he might really agree that he didn't do enough or didn't set enough distance between himself and Muratalla before those last 3 rounds of the fight. Also, I just want to highlight one thing. I think it was probably the line of the night of the broadcast. It was in round 4 where Tim Bradley said, describing Farmer, he said that Farmer has, quote-unquote, got great eyes. I never thought I'd ever hear that. But yes, that was the line of the night that stood out to me. After that, let's go rewind it back to the previous fights. I got to tell you, the co-main event, I guess, for this fight, I didn't get to see because I was watching it on replay afterwards, and I don't think their broadcast on ESPN Plus included this one. But the fight took place in Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada. And just to tell you right off the jump who I think you should be watching for as far as prospects, there are 3 that come to mind. The first one is the one I really like to see more of, and he is junior lightweight Jonathan Lopez. He is trained by Eddie Reynoso. I'll tell you more about his fight, but I'll try and make it really quick because his fight was also really quick. And then 2 guys who are trained by Robert Garcia, another junior lightweight named Albert Chop Chop Gonzalez, and then a welterweight named Art Barrera Jr. But Aside from them, a couple of B-sides you might want to look for on bet slips when you find them. Ricardo Quiroz, who is a junior welterweight, and then Mikey Bracamontes, who is a junior lightweight. So we'll start out with bout number one, a junior lightweight, which was the aforementioned B-side Mikey Bracamontes, who is 9-1-1 with 5 KOs, going against the first of 4 Robert Garcia charges who was on this card, named Javier Zamarron, who was 8-0 with 4 KOs. Zamarron is a southpaw. He's tall and skinny and fights really tall, and seems like his legs kind of locked together a little bit, like he's not really bending his knees, and weird spacing between his front and back foot, which makes it seem like he's not fully steady. So there's a lot of room for growth here as far as a boxer goes. He and Bracamontes were basically forehead to forehead in the first round, just throwing punches at each other. It was all action. It was definitely a fun thing. As time wore on, that pace dropped down, and Zamarron was able to control the fight more and impose his will on Bracamontes, and ended up getting himself a unanimous decision. You'll notice that I didn't include him as one of the top 3 guys that I want you to keep an eye on as far as prospects, because I don't think he's at that point just yet, and maybe it tells you enough that he was the first fight of all the ones that were being shown. Bout number 2, we have junior welterweights at 140 pounds and a 6-round fight, and we have what I guess you would consider kind of more like 2 journeyman, maybe you would call them. You had Dondrell Haynes at 8-1 with 7 KOs versus Israel Mercado at 10-1-1 with 7 KOs. Mercado's 29 and Haynes is 28. Those are not very many fights for guys who are at this age. And Tim Bradley makes a point during the broadcast that, hey, sometimes when you don't have the right promotion behind you, you can't get fights. And he also mentioned something. He said that these 2 guys, for both of them, the ship has sailed, he said. As far as being champions or contenders, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more and delve into it, because you're saying like at that age it's kind of over already, right? So I want to look more into that before I say anything more. But in terms of these 2 guys, I think what you saw, and of note for Mercado, is he's trained by Oscar Negrete, who has had multiple fights in the past few years and was a contender for a championship, but I don't believe he ever won one. And he is now a trainer. And when you watch Mercado fight, it's actually a really fun fight. He's got good footwork. He's got good hand speed. He throws the punches in bunches. Looks like he's more slapping than trying to hurt anybody, even though somehow he has those 7 KOs, so they must be against lower level competition. I feel like when I watch him, I can see a guy who, if he gets the right fights in the future, he could be one day contending for a championship. I'm not going to say he's going to go down as an all-time great by no means, but you never know. I mean, we're talking about guys, and this is their career, so it could happen. As far as Haynes goes, I think his record is similar to Mercado's, but he was made to look very one-dimensional in this fight and seemed to always be a step too slow. Wasn't able to really do anything in the fight, and ends up losing a unanimous decision. On one card for 6 rounds, lost all of them, 60-54, and then on the other 2 cards, he lost 59-55. The third bout that we had was another one of those prospects that I said we should check for, Albert Chop Chop Gonzalez at junior lightweight, 6 rounds against Conrado Martinez. This is actually an interesting fight. This fight goes all 6 rounds, but it doesn't make it to the final bell. And if you watch the first 3 rounds of this, you'd come away thinking that Chop Chop Gonzalez is way overhyped and overrated, because it didn't look like he was doing anything. It looked like he had trouble cutting off the ring. He wasn't able to really catch Martinez at all until he did. And when he did what he's known for and attacked the body and put in a lot of work. And all of a sudden you saw the fine footwork and punches from the longer arms of Martinez. All that seems to disappear, and he's going into survival mode. And eventually, in the 6th round, the referee has to step in and stop it, even though Conrado Martinez, to his credit, did not want to stop it. He wanted to keep on going, but he must have known, too, that there was no way he was winning the fight. He was just looking for a moral victory of making it to the final bell. In the 4th bout of the night, we had the number one prospect I would have you check out, which is Jonathan Lopez, 15-0 with 11 KOs, trained by Eddie Reynoso at junior lightweight in an 8-round bout versus Leonardo Padilla, who is 23-5-1 with 16 KOs. This fight lasted all of maybe a minute and a half, and it ended on a body shot that sent Padilla halfway through the ropes. When he comes back in, he takes a knee, and he also takes the full 10 seconds. So, impressive, and not a very long watch. You can watch the highlights, and basically shows you all you need to do to see about the fight. Other thing of note that Bernardo Osuna had mentioned too is that Lopez, who also goes as Gio Lopez, he's has amateur wins over Abdullah Mason and Xander Zayas. So very impressive. In the fifth bout, we had welterweights. Art Barrera Jr. at 5-0 and 4 KOs. He's the third of the three that I had said you should check out for prospects, versus Javier Mayoral at 6-5-1 with 1 KO. Now, I'll tell you this, man. I'm also a fan of soccer, and when I looked at Art Barrera Jr., I looked at a guy who, to me, I was like, man, he looks like one of those young guys who just joined the big team, and he shows up at the club. He still doesn't have access to the barbers that the rest of the guys on the team have, because this guy was rocking this like high mo bowl cut thing, looked like a mushroom thing that was kind of like on the top of his head. If you get to see it, you'll see what I mean. Robert Garcia, you guys over at that gym, I know you got to work on boxing first, but maybe just like point them in the right direction for a better barber, get a better haircut, maybe make him a little more marketable if that's what you want to do, you want to call it. But yeah, definitely do that. He put in his work. He dropped his opponent twice in the fight, had his opponent's left eye swollen too. So definitely a worthwhile prospect, someone you can look forward to seeing in the future. And then in the last bout that I had, yes, this is the last bout that I had before the main event, because for some reason the co-main was cut off or not included. We had junior welterweights at 140 pounds in 8 rounds. Charlie Sheehy, who was fighting his first time at junior welterweight, versus Ricardo Quiroz. And Sheehy came in at 9-0 with 5 KOs. Quiroz is 13-4 with 7 KOs. When you see a number like 4 in the loss column for somebody, oftentimes you think, wow, what's to make of this guy? He can't be all that good. But credit to Bernardo Osuna for prefacing this right from the beginning, because I didn't know this going into the fight, but it perked my ears up when he said this. Quiroz's losses: Gio Cabrera, trained by Freddie Roach, and who just recently lost to William Cepeda. Undefeated Tiger Johnson, U.S. Olympian. Undefeated Rohan Polanco, Dominican Olympian, that we saw fight on the June 29th card, and that I recapped for you guys before on the first episode of the 4Bs. And then Jermaine Ortiz, who lost a very close fight to Vasily Lomachenko. So I knew off of that, I really want to take a look at this guy, because he must be pretty good. And he was. He really, really made Charlie Sheehy work. And those first 3 rounds, Sheehy did not look good. I think Timothy Bradley, I think he described it as suspect. I was calling it shaky myself, like the way he was fighting in those rounds. I thought he's working his way towards a loss. He was already cut, and he was already bleeding from his eye, and I think from his nose. So Quiroz looked like he was in charge, but then in the 4th round, he seemed to find his pace and his rhythm and was able to take control over the fight. It doesn't mean that he completely and thoroughly outclassed Quiroz, because when you look at the final cards, 78-74 and 77-75 twice for a unanimous decision for Sheehy. That's why I would say look for Ricardo Quiroz to be one of those B-side fighters who might provide a lot of value on future cards. That's all I've got for you today. Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you're seeing, definitely subscribe and hit the like button. If you have any comments or anything you'd like to see in the future, feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear from you guys, and thanks again.